Some people in this world are on the front lines of the struggle between good and evil, and some, like us, bear witness. I'm Therese Apel.
And I'm Nicole Crowell. You may have heard us as we worked on stories and series about law enforcement and crime. And it's safe to say we've seen some of the best and worst of human nature.
We decided there's no greater honor than bringing you the stories of the men and women who seek out the monsters, who speak for the victims, and who put the pieces together on some of the biggest Mississippi crime stories of our time. Welcome to Investigation Homicide.
Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. We're doing things a little bit differently today. I'm starting off the podcast. Normally, Therese does. But we just said kicking me out of the nest. And so here I am, and I'm all nervy, but I'm really excited today because today is, I think, the first time that I have brought on a guest that I knew and that Therese didn't know as well. So I'm really excited for this. We started off as friends, and now he's here. So we're just going to start off like normal. Therese, how has your week been?
So it's been kind of crazy.
Yeah, you've had a big week.
It's just, life just is fast-paced right now, and summer always makes it worse. And, of course, there's more crime in the summer, and it feels like somebody said the Q word every day.
I feel like in the summer it should be lower because it's so hot and people shouldn't really want to go outside that much. So
apparently they get as mad as I do, but I just go inside and get in the air conditioning.
Yeah,
and I
that's
guess
fair.
some people instead go do crime.
Go inside, everybody.
Right.
So I'm going to introduce our guest today. Today we have John Michael Lay. John Michael Lay is a former police officer with Starkville Police Department. And I'm very excited because we had met maybe 2 months ago. We also have Jennifer Lay, his wife, here with us, and his dog, Briar. We met a couple months ago. Jennifer is the new executive director at the Brandon Main Street Association. And we just met, just kind of chit-chatting. And then John Michael, I think, was introduced to me, and we kind of got to talking. And after a while, he was like, well, I've heard about your podcast. I think you had brought it up first, and
Correct,
you had
yeah.
heard about it. And we had just started chit-chatting, and you had a great case that you want to bring today. And so, everybody, this is John Michael Lay. John Michael, can you tell us a little bit about your history in law enforcement and what brought you to our chair today?
I'm John Michael Lay.
Yeah.
I am from Monroe County. Went to Delta State and got my degree in criminal justice. Went to what is known as the Mississippi Police Corps. It no longer exists. Great program. You had to have a college degree to go through it. Chief deputy at Hinds County went through with me. One of the DA's investigators for Madison and Rankin County went through with me. Some really, really good people that have gone on and become excellent at what they do. The program was discontinued due to funding. So I went through that in 2001, graduated in 2002, and started my career in law enforcement as a deputy up in Monroe County.
Okay.
Worked in Monroe County for several years, and patrol, wound up down at Starkville for a little while, and then back to Monroe County.
Oh, okay.
And went in investigations. Got out for a little while, taught criminal justice. You really get a better understanding of a lot of things when you're trying to teach it to high school kids.
Yes, they always say that it's always, if you want to learn something, you have to teach it.
That is correct. And so did that. Wound up back in after my daughter was born, back in Monroe County, under the guidance of Chief Deputy Curtis Knight, who was a mentor. And so worked at Monroe 2012 to 2016. Got certified through the investigator program through the state during that time frame. And then wound up back in Starkville in 2016. Working there on patrol and went to investigations 2017, and then was on call January the 13th of 2018, which is our date of our case.
Which is where this case is going to start. So we're going to get into the case in just a little bit, but I'm curious, is there law enforcement or military in your family, or is this just something that you just, it seems like you've been dedicated to this your whole life?
So yes. No law enforcement. My grandfather was British. My grandmother and grandfather were pen pals during a little before World War II. My grandmother is from French Camp, Mississippi. My grandfather was from a little bitty town in England, and he actually fought for the British 8th Army in North Africa.
Okay.
And then after the war, they wound up here. And he's Small guy. He was a small guy and a Methodist minister. And I always knew I wanted to do something to help people and help the community. My mom's dad was from rural Monroe County, and he actually was on his way to Germany when the war ended. So both of my grandfathers were in the military. So there was always been a duty to serve your community.
Yeah.
You know, my parents are amazing. I couldn't ask for better parents. So yeah, it was something that I wanted to do. At one point in time, I wanted to be a kindergarten teacher.
Which is sometimes just like being a cop.
It is.
Sometimes
With a bunch of tiny
sometimes
criminals.
people are like kindergartners.
Yeah, and my mom would have loved for me to be a kindergarten teacher or a preacher,
Yes.
but God's calling for me was going law enforcement.
Awesome.
So here we are.
Awesome. Yeah.
I want to interject too because you probably worked at Monroe County with the sheriff now, Kevin Crook.
Yes.
And I just saw him not long ago at the sheriff's convention, and we were, of course, everybody's made the joke that, you know, you have a sheriff whose last name is Crook. And we've also, the former Yazoo County sheriff was Sheriff. So, yeah, so we had a sheriff at one point in Mississippi and a Sheriff Crook now. So,
that's
So I
funny.
will tell you,
uh-huh.
Sheriff Crook was my FTO.
Okay.
He actually,
What does FTO stand for?
field training officer.
Okay. I
so-
think I've
so-
asked that before.
Yeah.
So the lineage for me is that Sheriff Crook was my partner in my FTO.
Yeah.
Sheriff Crook's FTO was Curtis Knight, who kind of taught us all of us in the investigation side and was
Sure.
kind of our mentor. A lot of my other investigations experience or early on stuff when I was starting my career was from Randy Ginn,
Yes.
formerly of MHP.
Absolutely.
So you know, there's that background that comes in as well. Randy being stationed up in Monroe County for a long time.
Yeah.
So a lot of leadership that I've been lucky to be around through my career, up that way. Kevin actually is married to my mom's first cousin. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, love Kevin to
Interesting.
death.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So you got people all around you
Do
supporting you, knowing what this is all about.
yes.
Awesome. So we're going to take you guys through a case today that happened in 2018 in Starkville, Mississippi. This is a case of Dr. Shauna Witt. She was an optometrist at the Walmart in Starkville when she was shot to death by her estranged ex-boyfriend that she was trying to get away from. And John Michael's here. He had worked the case. He was on the scene. Were you on the scene, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you were on the scene. You were there. We're going to kind of go from the beginning to the end. And I know that there was a lot of, with something like this, there was video evidence. There were firsthand witnesses. It was kind of point blank. But the case itself ended up taking some twists and turns along the way, just in terms of like the trial and his arguments and his arguments back and all the people, the experts involved and all that fun stuff, right?
Yes.
So kind of tell us how this happened really early in the morning. This happened at like 9-ish in the morning, 9:20, 9:30-ish
Right.
in the morning.
9:30 on a Saturday morning.
People
in
just
Starkville.
shopping
Yes.
for their families.
Um,
Little bitty Starkville. So where were you when it happened and how did you first hear about
So
what was going on?
I was on call.
Okay.
So I was at home when I got the phone call. This isn't a whodunit
No.
kind of case. It's not at all. So I was at home, got the phone call. Hey, we've had a shooting at Walmart. Jump in my car, head that direction, and they had just put in, and I don't know how familiar with Starkville.
I went to state.
Okay.
So I'm very familiar with this specific optometry office
Okay.
in general.
So you were in Starkville though before they decided to put the medians down Highway 12.
Yes, we did not have medians on Highway
and so
12.
the medians on Highway 12 had recently been put in.
Because I got T-boned on Highway 12, so I would know.
And
Yeah.
so I'm coming up Highway 12, and then all of a sudden traffic's just blocked. You can't go anywhere.
Okay.
And so I wound up cutting lights and siren on, which I already had on, and kind of parted the seas. You can actually, even with the medians, you can get a car and a fire truck straight down the center lane if cars pull off to the sides down Highway 12.
Okay.
So
And
that's
that's
kind of what
always
happened.
cool to watch when that
Yeah.
happens
Yeah,
too. So
Yeah. The fire truck was just sitting on the side of the road, and when the sea kind of started parting, they rolled in right behind me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started up to the intersection where Walmart is, and the sheriff's department was already there. They'd already blocked off the entrance. not letting people out, keeping everybody in, but not letting anyone else in.
What does the scene look like when you show up? What do you see? You're outside? Everybody's outside of the Walmart, I'm assuming.
No.
They're still in the Walmart.
So you still had people in Walmart. You still had people when I got there that were still shopping.
Oh, they just said,
yeah.
Okay.
So it was a completely, little bit of some chaos there.
Yeah, but I think people just really didn't know how to process what just happened. Maybe.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And so when I arrived, ambulance was still there. Patrol officers were already there, and they already had Mr. Chisholm in custody.
Okay.
So the call came in.
So Tommy Chisholm is the assailant in this whole thing. He was the man responsible for Dr. Witt's death, just to introduce him a little.
Correct.
And tell us a little bit about kind of what their relationship looked like prior to this. Like what was the situation that led to this day?
So they had been dating, and through the investigation, we found out that Dr. Witt had actually filed a restraining order against Chisholm. And he actually was out on bond on some charges for burning all of her clothing in another jurisdiction. The restraining order actually went out of date that day on the 13th of January. And so that was their relationship. Dr. Witt had already told her employees in the eye clinic there that if he shows up, call 911. Just call them immediately if he shows up here. And so that's exactly what happened. So as soon as he showed up, a 911 call came through. So officers were already en route, which cut back some of that response time. Aaron Hano, Scott Lomax, and Antoine Golden were the first three officers from Starkville PD on scene. And they actually, luckily there were citizens that were watching some things, and I think that we can put up a link of a YouTube video that was taken the day of.
Absolutely.
Where you see those three officers that actually take Tommy Chisholm into custody. So that had already happened when I showed up. He was in the backseat of a patrol car when I got there. We kind of went over with what we were going to do, transporting, holding, those types of things. In the meantime, he decided to kick the back glass out of a patrol car. And so we got him transferred over and got him transported to the Octopaw County Jail. Once that was done, he was secured. Other officers, investigators started showing up on the scene.
Okay, so he's off the scene now.
Yes.
Everybody else is still there, examining the scene, getting the things that they need for evidence. Can we pull up a picture of Dr. Witt, please? Dr. Shauna Witt, victim. So this is Dr. Shauna Witt. She was the victim in this crime. She was just kind of having a day at work. So she showed up to work. She was the optometrist at this clinic. She showed up to work, and we got him, we got his kind of first part of his story covered. So the first part of her story is she comes into work. What is she doing when he comes in to the clinic?
So let me see if I can set the stage for you.
Yes.
So we're not talking about we walk into the general or the food side of Walmart, right?
They have that side door,
right.
I remember.
They've got a door that's on the front that a lot of Walmarts have. Sometimes they're a bank, sometimes they're an optometrist's office or whatever the case may be. So it happened to be an optometrist's office. And so he gets out of his car, walks into that door, which you might as well be walking into an optometrist's office. You're not walking into Walmart.
Right.
And so he walks into there. Her employees, that what you see when you walk through Walmart is the glasses part. You see where they're selling glasses and those types of things on that front side. Well, there's actually another side as well, which actually has
like its own receptionist and everything.
Well, as its own receptionist, as well as their own offices to do eye exams and those types of things. And so that front door that you walk into off of the parking lot, you get into a little bitty area that's probably 4 foot by 4 foot, and you can either go left and go through a door and go into the glasses sale area that gets you into general public Walmart, or you go right that goes into the actual office. And so you see Chisholm come in, and he looks around a little bit, and then phone call is made. You see the employees go and make a phone call, and then he goes into the actual medical side of the office. So you got cell side, you got medical side. So Chisholm goes into the medical side. What we find out through investigation is that Dr. Witt was actually in the room with a patient and her 4-year-old child. And Chisholm knocks on the door. Dr. Witt opens the door, sees who it is, tries to close the door. Chisholm forces the door open and pulls a gun out. Dr. Witt saving herself or attempting to save herself and definitely saving her patient and their child.
Right.
Kind of slides underneath his arm and takes off running towards the front door. In doing so, I believe it's 8 rounds were fired. Dr. Witt was hit once in the back and then once in the back of the head. And she fell to the ground close enough to the door that you can actually see her fall from the cameras inside the shopping side of the video.
Oh, wow.
Into the medical side.
Into that door.
Yes. So you don't actually have any surveillance of that part of it happening, but you can see it happen. Chisholm comes out.
Right.
Walks into the sale side.
Right, into the main Walmart area now.
Walmart area, gun in hand, and walks up to the security fencing that comes down after hours when they close down that side, that part of the business. He comes out and stands there. Almost as if he was waiting for a police officer to show up. And try and kind of see what he's going to do. Walks back outside and gets in his car. And about that time frame, officers start arriving and take him into custody.
Who pointed out? How did y'all know he was the one
to
get? Was it an eyewitness that had seen him run out?
Eyewitness saw him run out, and that's actually also the eyewitness that did the YouTube video.
Yes,
Yeah. And so he gives a great description of what he's wearing, where he's at, and actually does an excellent job and actually testified in this case on what he saw and all of those things. And so if you actually were to go back and look at his YouTube video, you can actually see Dr. Witt on the ground, see her legs are actually almost out the door when she fell. And so when I got there, Dr. Witt had already been transported, and she actually was pronounced dead at the Octobah County Hospital about 45 minutes later.
Did he start asking police to kill him?
Yes.
Do you think that was always going to be the intention, or do you think at that point he had regretted his choice and just wanted to die? Do you think suicide by cop had always been his plan, or did he ever say anything about that? Or?
So to think about what somebody else was thinking,
that's fair.
Obviously, I don't know.
That's fair.
But I do, looking at the situation, watching him walk into Walmart, holding a gun in his hand, I do think that was probably it.
Yeah. And he just kind of waited out, when you said he kind of meandered out front for a little bit, just waiting for somebody to show up.
Correct.
And then he was like, well, I guess nobody's going to show up. I'm going to go sit in my car and just wait.
That's pretty much what happened. And there was no, let me run from this.
That's the crazy
nothing.
part. It was so I'm doing this and it's done.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Here I am.
That's pretty much exactly what it was.
Why did he hate her so much? Were they, she got the restraining order for him setting her garment, clothes on fire. But they were in a really long relationship. Was there any other prior reports from her besides the restraining, or did it go straight from everything's hung? Because that's the scary part, is we hear all these stories everything's great, and then one day it's oh, he killed her. She did all the right things. She got the restraining order. She got away from him. She said, I'm breaking up with you. This is a bad relationship. He wouldn't let her go. How can you look at somebody who did that, and then the person that was deceased, and then still kind of have, like, I have a lot of trouble having grace for that.
Yeah.
Because it just seems so intentional and blatant. So how do you go from this point, now you know who it is, you know who the victim is, she's passed away. How does this whole process, how do you start collecting evidence? I mean, there were bullet holes in the wall as well.
Correct.
So he actually shot 6 rounds? I
I
think there were 4 in the wall, 2 in her.
That's correct, yes.
And then he had maybe 2 more left or something.
I believe that is correct, yes.
So, and then he never went after anybody else. He never tried to assault anybody else in the Walmart. You know, or did he?
So he actually was initially charged with capital murder and aggravated assault.
On her?
No.
On
one of the coworkers actually had a bullet through her white jacket.
Oh, wow.
That gave me chills.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
So the assault charge was on her.
Correct.
She filed it. Okay, so then we're going to get into, now he's in your custody. How do you go from here?
So it was, I was part of the team.
Correct.
I just happened to be the one that was on call, so it was my case. I have to give credit to Jonathan Headley and Carly Jo Winship and Kenley Reeves, Tom Robertson, that was our lieutenant at the time, William Durr, that was our sergeant, Mark Ballard, that was our captain, and Frank Nichols, that was our chief, because they allowed us to do our jobs. And so we had officers, Wesley Cohen and Chris Jackson, that came in that had been trained in crime scene evidence collection.
Mm-hmm.
I had also been trained in crime scene evidence collection, but they came in specifically to collect evidence. And so this one was a little strange, though. You're sitting in Walmart,
mm-hmm.
and so I don't know that any of us turned around and walked outside to our cars to get anything.
Mm.
Walmart just said, hey, if you need it, here's an assistant manager.
Wow.
Go get it off the shelf. We're not wasting time. We want you to do your job as quickly as possible, and we want to help you do your job as quickly as possible. And so, there were things that we went and got that we turned around and handed right back to Walmart, and then there were things that we went and got and Walmart donated. They cut out part of the wall.
Oh, wow.
Where the bullets were?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so Walmart donated a Sawzall for cutting that out.
Wow.
And, some of those types of things that happened that were in the law enforcement world, a little cool when you need it and Walmart says, hey, just go get it.
Yeah.
And so that happened. And so the scene was completely processed. We had officers that I was at Walmart until it was released.
Until the
crime scene was released. And so we had witnesses that were writing statements. We had evidence that was being collected. Walmart's loss prevention officer was in Columbus, and I called her personally and said, hey, this is what we've got. And she came directly from Columbus and started pulling video. And we had a case built within literally hours. Because of technology and the videos and those types of things. So other officers wound up in Kosciuszko, executing search warrants on Chisholm's residence.
Oh, yes. This
so
comes into play eventually,
right,
too.
And so they executed those search warrants, which is where restraining order was located, and search warrants on Chisholm's vehicle and even Dr. Witt's vehicle, all had to be
done.
Executed. Yes.
Yeah. So let's pull the picture of the Starkville Daily News picture. This is credited to the Starkville Daily News. This is out front of the news flowers in front of door. So this is the door that he came into.
Correct.
And this is just a little memorial just to shout that out. And so this whole thing happened very quickly, right? The crime happened, evidence was collected, scene was released. We know who did it.
Correct.
But after that, the trial took a while.
It did.
Well, and let me ask a question before we do that. Did you guys sit down with him at any point, or did he lawyer up immediately?
He pretty much lawyered up.
Okay,
Right off the bat.
Yeah.
And it did take a little while.
What was his demeanor like when you had him in that time frame? Was he just kind of shut down?
And that's what every witness that testified, the mom and both of the employees, he was calm. He was calm during all of this. He wasn't anything in that nature. He was calm. So kind of the next thing that was involved with this case actually came on February 3rd of that year.
Okay.
And that's, we answer calls as officers and as detectives. But I went to the memorial service, on campus at Mississippi State for Dr. Witt. And so I met her sister Tia, and I met her mom, Miss Rebecca, and, made a relationship there with them as well. And so, since then, I heard from Miss Rebecca pretty regularly. She passed away a couple of years ago.
And this is a picture of y'all together on the day of the verdict.
That's
of course, I'm sure we all know. I mean, it's out now. It's a guilty verdict, clearly. But she looks so sweet.
Yes, sweetheart.
And I can't imagine. I just feel like a parent should never bury their child.
No.
That just doesn't ever seem fair, and she looks, and at that age, like, what do you?
Yeah.
You just have to sit there and just live with it and raise a person for your whole life.
Yeah.
And then somebody else takes them away from you. That's insane.
It is.
That is actually insane.
It's personal for the officers too.
Why?
I met her mom.
You're involved with these families.
That's right. And
they become family to you.
Yeah. I mean, before I came on this podcast, I checked with her sister and said, "Hey, look."
Yep.
And she said, "Sure. I know you'll do a great job, and we want her to be remembered."
Absolutely. Well, let's give them a thank you for allowing us to talk about her in memory. And it's a tough case, clearly, and having family watch is always an honor.
Yeah, it's more of an emotionally tough case. It was not the most difficult case to solve.
Right, to solve emotionally. Terrible.
But then it got a little interesting when we finally got ready to go to trial.
Yes. So tell me about that.
Well, so initially there was an argument that was made by Chisholm that he should not have been indicted for, say hi to Briar.
Hi, Briar.
For capital murder. And so the question was asked is, how do you get to capital murder?
Okay.
What is the other felony that's involved to get to capital murder? And so our thought the whole time, and to give credit as well to Scott Chisholm, the DA up there, and Mark Amos, the ADA, and their entire teams that were involved with this, it's a great argument. Well, the other crime is burglary.
Right.
Because Mr. Chisholm had no business being in. Yeah, you can go in the office.
Right. You can go look at glasses.
You can. You can go. You can look at the glasses. You can even go in potentially to make an appointment with a doctor, right? But you can't go into a closed examination room while someone else has a right to privacy that's going on in there.
And I had to reread it a few times because the verbiage itself is very weird, and I understand why y'all got that charge done. Like, it makes sense when you actually lay it out in legal terms, but it wasn't that he actually came in and stole something and took it away. It was the intention of burglarizing something is either, and the two words they used, I can't remember, it's either like intentional or it can be like covert. Like, you can just do it like, it's a really tough way to explain it because he didn't actually steal an object out of here. So when people hear that, I think they assume that, he also stole a computer.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's part of the problem.
Right.
And so I will give you an example. I know everyone has cell phones nowadays, so this isn't going to happen. But if you had a car wreck in Utica, Mississippi, and there's a house there, right? And you go knock on the door and there's nobody at home and your leg's broken, and you kick in that door, okay? And you walk inside that house and you call 911. Have you committed the crime of burglary?
That's a good question.
You have not, because what was your intention? Your
Right,
intention was
to
not
be-
to
to get
commit a
help.
crime inside that home.
Ah.
Your intention, now you may have committed the crime of trespassing,
Mm-hmm.
and you may have committed the crime of malicious mischief,
Mm-hmm.
right? But to be burglary, you've got to break the plane,
Okay.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
and commit a crime inside that home,
Okay.
okay? Now, if, for instance, my front door is open and you walk in my house uninvited and you just walk in and you pick up my Apple Watch that's laying on whatever and you turn around and walk out the door,
Mm-hmm.
have you committed the crime of burglary?
Yeah, I want to say yes.
You did.
Okay.
Even though the door wasn't locked,
Yeah.
even the door was open,
Okay.
you committed the crime of burglary. So do you see?
Yes, it does
Okay.
make sense. It's the intention going in and then what you did when you went in.
Right. And so in this case, Chisholm's intention was commit the crime
Correct.
of assault.
Right. And then he broke the plane
And he broke the plane. So when he opened that door,
where
And-
she was with the patient.
That's
and
right.
And then she was also fighting him to get out.
that's correct. He committed the crime of burglary.
Okay.
Okay. But his intention was to commit the crime of assault. And it
Okay.
doesn't matter if it was simple assault, which would have been just as simple as just showing the gun to her, or aggravated assault by shooting her.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
100%
Okay.
does.
So so that's how we got to capital murder.
Yep. Okay.
Mr. Chisholm wound up going for an insanity plea at one point as well.
He sure did.
And he hired his lawyer and he hired a therapist.
You're gonna love this, Therese. Do you know about this therapist?
I don't know about this therapist.
Oh, this is one of my when
I
I,
can't
read
wait.
this little part of the case summary, I was like, oh man, this is my. I mean, y'all know my fiance Adam. Everybody here knows my fiance Adam, but he's an attorney, and I cannot wait to go home and tell him about this
Yeah.
psychiatrist.
Okay. I have to know.
Okay, go ahead.
So they hire a therapist and attempt to get her qualified as an expert witness.
Mhm.
And so they go through the process of getting her qualified. And as we know, prosecution gets an opportunity to try and find holes with this person being your expert witness. And the therapist that they hired wound up testifying to the fact that she had no ability to actually be an expert witness
Wow.
because she was not anything other than a therapist. She had no forensic therapy background. She had no
And her
mental
school
health-
wasn't even
her
accredited.
school was not accredited.
Oh,
She got it
wow.
on.
She didn't do
Yeah.
any forensic studies.
No.
She didn't do any research studies that an actual therapist has to take and do in order to be a therapist.
And
She was
didn't
just some
even-
girl that went and got
Yes.
a therapy degree from some sort of
Out of a cereal box.
online and then said, I'm
Arguably,
an
yes.
expert witness in forensics, psychiatry,
Psychology, I believe so, yeah.
psychology. Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? And then went to court.
So did the defense not think that would come out in testimony?
They had an opportunity to realize that it was going to. And that was one of the issues that wound up being part of the appeals process.
Sure. Yeah, it seems like that'd be a strong appeal.
No,
No.
it wasn't. No. And reading, of course, I wasn't part of that, but
Right.
reading Chisholm versus State,
Mhm.
where it actually wound up going to the state Supreme Court,
Mhm.
the state Supreme Court said, you as a defense lawyer and a defendant know that prosecution is get to argue
Yeah.
this, and so you should have known that was coming. That being the case, is that's your witness. That's not on prosecution. That has no
Yeah.
reason to retry or anything of that nature.
Sorry.
Well, and I
homie.
guess when I was thinking that might be a strong appeal, it seems like that might be grounds for what is it, incompetent counsel, or I don't know I usually know the
Oh.
exact term,
Right,
but I can't think of it
right.
now. But like basically,
His lawyer was.
when you can come back and say your lawyers weren't any good.
But his lawyer was good. Mark Clyde
Yeah.
is a good lawyer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just missed it.
It
Sometimes
just,
that happens.
It just happened that way. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So that part was crazy. So we had, and I didn't know this before we had talked, you had brought up that the trial had actually gone on during COVID. So how did that impact?
So it was set to go at one point in time during COVID.
Okay.
But because of COVID, it got pushed.
Would it get
so-
pushed multiple times and you just kind of waited until
Yes.
it was done?
Yes. And
So,
so
he's just
we-
sitting in jail for how long?
correct.
A year, 2 years?
No, 3.
3 years.
I believe July of 2021 is when we finally went to trial
18,
in this
19,
case.
20, 21. Yeah. Yep.
Well, and
So
what
d-
does that do as an investigator? You know, when you've got a case that sits that long, what does it do when you know that it's coming up and you're going to have to go into court, knowing that? I mean, and we talked about this prior to starting the podcast. Sometimes when it's been a while since you've worked a case, I mean, it can kind of fade out a little bit. Like there are details that you'll miss. So how do you prepare for that?
So this case has been over 7 years ago now.
Yeah.
And I am not privy to my case file anymore.
Right.
I don't work at Starkville anymore. And so a lot of this is off of memory. So I'm not going to say that I haven't possibly missed something 7 years later. But that's one of the biggest things is all ADAs that I've ever worked with are the same way. You start court prep about a week to 2 weeks prior.
Yeah.
And that's why one of the biggest reasons that note taking in your investigations files and attention to details matter. Because small things that you will miss are things that you'll miss.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. You won't remember them 4 years later. And I
Correct.
think we said that
Yeah.
at some point. I don't remember who the guest was, but they said even if you don't think it's a significant detail, write it down.
That's right.
Because it could be,
Yes.
and you're going to forget it. They said exactly that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So he did end up appealing. Actually, we're not going to go there yet because I want to get to the verdict. So let's get to the actual trial day.
Okay.
Everybody's in court. Dr. Witt's family is there. Y'all are there. You're there. Jennifer, are you there?
Yes. That's
You
correct.
said they had just come back from vacation.
Yes.
The DA postponed. Oh, she's on. There she is.
Yeah.
Say hi. So tell us about that day. How did it start and how did the whole process go? And I want to hear about, I love the fact that the jury deliberation.
I know, right?
Yeah, that was just,
so. Realistically, it's all kind of a blur.
Yeah.
And so what happens is, and that's, I don't know if you've ever sat in on trials.
Not in a criminal trial.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
you've seen things, right? And
Yeah.
so that's one of the things that I can't tell you a whole lot about. The only time that I actually was in the courtroom
Mhm.
was during my testimony and during closing arguments.
Well,
Okay.
and can I expound on that just for the people that don't know how it goes? Because even I, as a reporter, I had been in on dozens of trials that I'd reported on, but it wasn't until I was a witness in a trial that I understood how it works, where you don't get to go in there until it's your turn to testify. So you think that, like, when you're talking about a trial, you think that because somebody testified that, like, they must know everything that went on in the courtroom. But, I mean, with the exception, in the trial that I was in, I was a witness. And then once I was released, I had to go in and report it. So I did know all of it, but it was the first time I'd ever seen, like, we're sitting in a room. We have no idea what's going on in there. So you were basically, you went out there, you got on the stand, you did your thing, and then you didn't come back until the end, right?
Correct. Because they hold you in case they need to bring you back for other questioning.
Right.
Are you nervous throughout the day or do you know how this is going to go?
Um,
Jennifer is shaking her head. So you can't lie.
yes, it's nervousness. I have to give credit back to the academy I went through, in that they told us then, so over 20 years ago, that if a defense lawyer attacks you as a person or your credibility, you've done an excellent job with your case because they can't attack the case and the facts. And so when you get on that witness stand and you're there to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth,
Right.
that's what you have to do. And so whatever question you get asked, you answer it. And if you don't know the answer, you say, I don't know. And you may get to look stupid. And they may try and get under your skin. But that's part of the process. That's
Right.
what a defense lawyer is there
Is
for.
doing.
They're doing their job. It doesn't mean that defense lawyers are bad people. It just means they're doing their job. But if you've got a good prosecutor, then they have your back too.
What kind of evidence was presented in this? So you had the wall. You had the wall cut out.
Yes.
You had video evidence.
Yes.
You had the restraining order.
Yes.
Did you have anything else?
We had the gun.
The gun, it's of course.
We had
My bad.
Yeah, we had the bullets that were taken.
Right.
We had
The receptionist also came up and testified.
Correct. And then you've also got the 911 call,
Mm-hmm.
which actually has the gunshots on the 911 call. And so they were able to actually match the 911 call to the video surveillance from inside Walmart.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
So you can hear, because you don't have audio with the Walmart videos, but you can hear it through the 911 call.
Right.
And see it on the Walmart
video.
videos.
So if you layered, it's essentially
it's essentially exactly what it is.
Yep.
And then the YouTube video, he actually came and testified as well on opening day of what he videoed and what he saw. And so they were able to put that video into evidence because of it. So those are some of the small things that made it into evidence in the case. Well, yeah, I mean, there were some back and forth on what the relationship had been that we could prove.
When they got the subpoena to go into his house, what did they take from his house? They got and then also a laptop?
Yeah, so they took a laptop and they took
the restraining order.
Restraining order, yes.
Nothing ever came of the laptop?
So that was one of the arguments on appeal.
Right.
No evidence was ever presented in the trial on anything that came off the laptop.
Okay.
Or either of their cell phones.
Right.
And so the state Supreme Court said that
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Because he had time. He knew that he would have had time to, he also had access to request something. Like the argument for the appeal was that he knew what was on that computer. So if he needed to, he shouldn't have even worried about it unless it was something terrible.
Basically.
I'm terrible
doing
legal speak.
The gist of that is Supreme Court said that it's not necessarily the prosecution's responsibility to show evidence if you know the evidence is there.
Right.
If you knew the evidence was there, why didn't you request it and present it?
Right.
As part of your defense. And that's basically what they said.
Exactly.
Yes. So you have the ability to defend yourself and you had the opportunity to do so.
Mm-hmm.
You should have done so.
Correct.
Yes.
That's exactly right. So all this evidence is presented. We have a jury over here. They're about to make a decision. They go back to the back. Tell me about that.
So they go back to the back and we were all getting ready to go eat lunch.
Okay.
And thinking we're going to be an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, 4 hours, you don't know.
You never know.
And an entire 26 minutes later, I believe is correct, the jury had a verdict, and we went in to hear the verdict.
What was the verdict?
The verdict was guilty.
Guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged.
Yay.
Yes.
Did you hear that? We're just going to pop up a picture of Tommy real quick just so we can have an idea of what he looked like. This is Tommy.
So I don't know that we haven't discussed this, but Tommy is a nurse.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah,
all right, take the picture off, Dan.
either.
We're done with that.
Actually, Tommy was a nurse.
Okay, so that's interesting because that's a caretaking role,
Correct.
which is very different from somebody who goes in and shoots their ex-girlfriend in the head.
Correct. And
Where was he a nurse at, in Starkville?
he lived in Kosciuszko. I don't know
Okay.
exactly what.
Which is not far. I think Kosciuszko was 20 minutes from
That's about
Starkville.
right,
Yeah. He'd been a nurse his whole life? I guess you wouldn't. Maybe you wouldn't even know that.
As far as I know, that was his only profession, was nursing. Yes.
Who is Laurice Simmons?
Hi, Miss Laurice.
She said, Tommy. She said, I love his T-shirt too. We'll get onto your T-shirt towards the end. Hi, Jennifer. Yes. I'm watching too. And Tommy looks so angry in that picture. He does look very angry.
Well, and I know her as Miss Sylvia. So,
you do?
Yes, she's an old friend of mine as well. So.
Oh, well, hi, Miss Sylvia.
Yes, she is.
I love it. I love it. So we ended up with a guilty verdict. How do you feel at that moment when you hear guilty?
Relieved.
Yeah.
Some closure. But I still got a mom and a sister and some close friends that are still missing a loved one.
Right.
And so, it is some closure. It's, as an officer, it's another file that I can put in a different location because it's closed. But they still have to wake up every day and have a family member that's missing.
I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. So I was going to say something about Tommy again. Oh, yes. What was his sentence?
Life.
And he did not get the death penalty. Why?
I don't know.
Did they try for it or?
So, I mean, he was charged with capital.
Yeah.
Right.
And they could have gone with.
Do you think maybe it's just the judge? Does the judge decide that?
It would have been the jury.
Or the jury decided that? Okay,
Jury.
so they just gave him life in prison with no possibility of parole.
Correct.
What prison is he in?
I believe he's in
probably in
Parchment.
Oktibbeha. Oh, okay.
No, he's
Oh,
in,
never mind.
yeah.
I see. I told you.
Yeah.
Y'all gotta tell me everything.
So I obviously I don't have a whole lot of information on him now.
Who cares?
Real quick.
Well,
Dan has a question.
Did he have were there any substances in his system? Did he go to AA? Was he sober or trying to get sober? Was he on drugs? Was there anything like that in his system?
so at the time of, I cannot tell you that there was anything in his system. I know he had some issues, some potentially substance abuse issues at one point in time. I think that was the alcohol was part of the reason for the
You wanna?
initial issue.
Yeah,
So
I knew him. I knew him from.
we just figured this out 5 seconds ago.
Yeah,
Okay.
from
Pat his history.
yeah,
That's kind of crazy.
yeah. So
How do you feel, Dan?
I attend 12-step meetings.
Yeah.
And I can't say anything
No, you
other
don't
than
have to.
that. But
How do you feel right now in this moment?
I feel pretty weird.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
like pretty gross a little bit.
Don't feel gross. It's not your
But
fault.
yeah,
But it
maybe
is
I should.
weird.
Maybe I should
But
unfriend him.
So his.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if I
really?
remember correctly, I believe that Madison SO had to get him out of a
Yes.
house.
That did come up.
That
did come up. He had something with
over
Madison.
around Gluckstadt, maybe.
I think in that news article you sent me, they had mentioned it at the very end.
Yeah, like SWAT had to go get him out of a house. I mean, it was there was a to do.
Do you know
At what time in relation to this case was
A year or two prior.
it? Okay.
Yeah.
Was it also related to a female?
It was, but it was not related, if I remember correctly, but it was not related to Dr. Witt.
So this is one of those guys, and there are women like this too. So I'm not trying to make
Let's not.
this is not a man bashing thing, but there are people that just over and over again have these relationships where they get super attached and they do irrational things. And almost always when you see that pattern, it ends up in something drastic. I'm not going to say it always ends up in murder, but you do see that happen where, the last time ends up being like, whoa, we should have seen this coming. Did you guys feel like that may have been the case with him?
So being able to look back,
Maybe.
well, no. So when you have horse blinders on,
Yeah.
right, And I think your blinders just came off just a couple minutes ago, right? Okay. So when you have horse blinders on, that's all you see.
Yeah.
Okay. So as an investigator, really all I've got is what my horse blinders are giving me.
Mhm.
We had never dealt with Tommy Chisholm before.
Mhm.
Sure.
We had never dealt with Dr. Witt before and any issue whatsoever because they didn't live in the city of Starkville. None of their issues up until that moment
Right.
were inside our jurisdiction or inside our city. And so an issue in Madison was not on our radar. An
Right.
issue in Kosciuszko wasn't on our radar. An issue in, I believe, Grenada, I believe, where Dr. Witt had a home, wasn't on our radar.
Wow.
And so you really don't know.
Yeah.
Looking back at it now, where you've got
Once the puzzle is complete.
correct. Once you've got the big picture,
Yep.
yeah, you have a completely different understanding of it. So you did ask about Tommy now. I know he's still in prison. I've heard that he is actually doing some nursing of some sort in the prison system.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think they
wow.
do like
I don't know.
Well, and
that's
this-
what
it
I've
would
heard.
make sense.
This
Um,
says
but-
he's at Parchment, and we were asking where he is. He's in Parchment Unit 30.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I bet that they don't have a lot of medical professionals that go to prison to Parchment. So when they have one, they're like, actually, you can do something
Yeah.
here.
right.
Yeah.
He's not making
Come
license
come
plates.
do these shots.
Yeah.
It's not a
I mean,
joke.
that was
Okay. Dan
There we
got
go,
it.
there it is.
Sorry, it was a very off-brand joke.
so.
still in shock. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of. I mean,
And he's how old is he now?
should
She was. I mean,
be-
they were in their probably what 30s,
No, 40s.
40s back then. So
he
he's
was in his
probably
40s.
He was born in 1977.
Yeah,
So he's about almost 60.
he's 47.
Almost 50. 47. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not almost 60.
I mean, sorry.
Us
Yeah,
Gen X
Jen.
people are like,
Jen
wait a
heard me
minute,
right.
what?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, he's 2 years older than I am.
Damn.
Yeah.
For you, I think it's interesting to watch you go through this case too. Like for you, it wasn't even a guilty, not guilty for you in the case, but like such an emotional attachment to the family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was Jennifer, his wife. She doesn't have a mic, but what she was saying is that it was a very emotional case for you. And I'm just trying to, did I miss anything?
No, because you get so connected to the family because you carry them through this time that they investigate crimes every day, and the family doesn't do that, and you're all they have.
Right.
Yeah, and their connection as a family. Hey, where's the case? Is to call me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And Miss Rebecca was living by herself in another state, and was kind of going through it alone. And Tia lived in a different state, and luckily,
And that's
you know,
her sister?
it's her sister.
Mhm.
Yeah. And you know, there's that impact that's definitely different because you still have contact with the family. As well as I had issues walking into Walmart for a little while.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Well, And I want to add too, just based on my career working with law enforcement, with investigators, you see a couple of different phenomenons with guys that work victim crimes. So you're talking about a sexual assault or homicide or that kind of thing, aggravated assault. It's oftentimes the living survivors that affect you more than the ones that pass, and so you have guys that either it's hard to know sometimes which ones are going to get you, which ones are going to be the ones that really affect you and that really kind of carry forward for you. Some folks, some of the investigators will get hard, and each case is just a case, and they don't attach, and they're able to just move on, and that's hard to work with. The ones that have that heart, it becomes hard to kind of push through without being mentally affected by, and affected in your heart by the life.
Yeah.
And so that's what you're talking about. And I see it so much. And honestly, as a crime reporter, that when I am done, when I hang it up, it's going to be not because of a lot of the things. It's going to be because of the emotional toll of not dealing with the victims' families in a bad way, but just of knowing the people that are the most affected by these horrible situations.
Well, and to expand a little bit more on that, you know, I don't think that a lot of times the general public remembers that the patrol officer, the investigator, whatever that they may be, they meet good people in bad situations.
Yeah.
I have never met a good person in a good situation in law enforcement for the most part, you know?
Yeah.
Unless you knew me personally, you're not calling me and saying, hey, we're having a cookout for the 4th of July, come eat, right? Because you don't, that's just not happening.
Nobody calls 911 and says, hey, we got extra burgers.
Exactly. That's exactly.
Although, you know, that might, I mean, maybe not 911.
Yeah,
but
right.
like,
Call the
it's not a bad
non-emergency
idea.
line and offer them burgers.
Right, yeah.
Right.
And so, you know, even in the law enforcement world, if you watch cops, you know, we walk in and we sit with our back to the door most of the times and are super hyper vigilant on everything. And, you know, somebody brings cookies to the PD at Christmas. Well, we're going to ask, well, who made the cookies?
Right.
Well, those were made by Nicole's grandmother. Oh, okay, well, I know Nicole. Not a problem. I'll eat those.
Okay.
Well, I don't really know who brought those. Well, nobody's touching those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we don't know. And so, you know, I think that's one of those things that leads to what you were saying. I
Yeah.
mean, my T-shirt obviously says, you know, stay the more needs you.
Yeah.
There's a reason why there are more officers that die by suicide than actual assaults in their profession a year.
You're 3 times more likely as an officer to die of suicide than of some kind of attack on you or some kind of line of duty situation.
Yeah. And you know, it is cases like this that take a toll.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have family that needs you.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a victim that needs you to stand up for them. You've got yourself, though, that you turn around and have to go back into Walmart or back into whatever the case may be, that you mentally have to deal with that every time that you walk into that place or get called to court on a case or whatever the case may be. And so that's the difficult side that a lot of people don't think about.
Well, and I want to add, too, another statistic that I have memorized by now is that, so the normal average person has 2 to 3 critical incidents in their lifetime. Normal average officer has, I mean, I memorized it. It's more than 180. I mean, it may be like 600. I can't remember now exactly what the deal is, but it's exponentially more than anything a normal person deals with. So when we talk about, you know, mental health for officers and people get all like, well, he was rude on that traffic stop. And you're like, well, he just pulled a dead baby out of a car, out of a wreck, or, you know, there's all kinds of things that go on with you guys that never touch the real world because y'all are there to keep it from ever connecting, you know?
Correct. And your numbers are about right. Your officers in LAPD are going to have a lot more critical incidences than an officer from Hatley, Mississippi.
Sure.
Okay. But the other side of that is that they're still going to deal with him, and that officer in Hatley, Mississippi is still going to deal with more than the general public.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
So that's accurate. I tell people that that officer that stops you and writes you a ticket for running a stop sign, and he may be rude, you don't know that 2 weeks ago he worked a fatality car wreck right there where a 3-year-old kid was killed.
Yeah.
And that may not be the reason he's being rude either.
Right.
He may have, and the reason you ran that stop sign may very well be that you just found out that your mom has cancer and your mind is there. Well, he may be stopping you and he may be rude because he just found out that his wife's leaving him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're all people.
Exactly.
And that's what's difficult about it. It always is something. So we try and meet everybody with where they're at in life. And unfortunately, that specific day, Tommy was in a really bad spot.
Do you feel like given a little more time or more distance, or, I mean, just what you know of him, do you feel like this was somebody that reacted in a moment, or do you feel like this was kind of destined to happen? Like based on who he was that you knew of? And I realize that's kind of not a fair question.
Well, so I will say this. One of the arguments on appeal as well was manslaughter as a heat of the moment
Mm-hmm.
crime. Tommy came into Starkville. He drove all the way from Kosciuszko with a gun.
Yeah.
He didn't come directly to Walmart. He went across the street first and then came to Walmart, got out of his car and walked up to the door, turned around, walked back to his car, got back out of his car and walked back inside the store, and then committed this murder.
So we see him plan it and fight against it and come back and do it anyway.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Which is not a crime of passion.
No.
What defines a crime of passion?
Ma'am?
What defines a crime of passion? Something that the normal person would.
So a crime of passion potentially. I think probably the biggest examples that most people would see. If you walk in and your significant other is in the bed with somebody else and you shoot
That is
them,
always what people
that's
think.
pretty much
Yeah.
Right, because you came in and it was again all this the way they phrase it is so beautiful, but when I repeat it, it sounds so silly. But it was if the regular person walked in onto something that would essentially make them lose their mind, that is a crime of passion. Not you walking in to kill somebody else running away from you.
correct. And
So
there was-
every single one of his appeals were just turned down.
yes, all of them.
Every single one of them, the court was like, nope, nope, nope.
And there was no evidence whatsoever that Dr. Witt that had ever done anything to cause there to be a crime of passion,
Right,
for him to flip a switch.
right. She was just working.
That's correct, because you have 3 witnesses.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Correct. So I think it's time to wrap it up. We've had a good over an hour now. Therese, is there anything else you would like to say?
No, I just think it's worth saying that, if you're in a relationship and someone breaks up with you, let them break up with you. They're not going to get back together with you because you're persistent. The best thing you can do is walk away, give them that space they need, and let them come back. If you love something, set it free. But seeing someone like this who had also had similar situations in the past in domestics, this is not the way you want to do it. And unfortunately, especially on this podcast, we've seen situations like this so many times. And obviously,
Yes, let's
Briar agrees with
Go
us.
ahead, show Briar.
Yeah.
Hey, Briar, you want to pick him up?
Yeah.
Is he your buddy? Oh, he
Oh, he
said
can
no.
be.
He's
He
camera
heard the door
shy.
shut
Camera shy.
outside. So, yeah.
So I also will throw out there, make sure that you're doing work.
Mhm.
Whether
Yes.
it's couples counseling, it's individual counseling, it's AA, it's whatever. It's so many times you go to the same house for a domestic and it's the same thing and it's the same thing and she takes him back or he takes her back and there's no change.
Yeah.
Make sure that there's some type of work that's being put in to change.
Right. Because you don't want to be the couple that comes to this. You don't want to be this situation.
No, you don't.
Nobody ever does.
Not at all. Well, thank y'all for having me.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for coming on. Thank you. They have a long trip ahead of them, so we'll let them go. Thank you, John Michael, for coming on. Thank you,
Yes.
Jennifer, for letting him.
Yes.
And thank you, Briar, for joining us.
Thank you, Briar, for joining us. If you guys would like to follow us, you can hit that follow button. You can follow us at Investigation Homicide. Listen to this podcast on all of your favorite streaming platforms. We have a merch link. You can go to the link in bio. It'll give you a link to all of the platforms that you can download on our merch. If you'd like to be a sponsor, you can please just reach out to us. That'd be great. Thank you to Daniel Anderson with Audio Alchemy Productions for doing such a wonderful job as always. Thank you, Therese,
Thank
for
you
being here and starting this whole thing.
You did awesome.
You did awesome.
She did. She did an excellent job.
Thanks, guys.
did.
I was very nervous. But it's okay. It's not like real nervous. It's not like the nervous, like, oh, I'm nervous to do this. It's just the nervous that I'm going to mess up. So
No, you did awesome.
thanks. Thank y'all for letting me speak. Everybody have a great night. And we'll see you next Thursday at 5 o'clock at Investigation Homicide. Good night.
Good night.